Hey there, my name's Ben Bailey, and today we're going to unbox a brand new Vortex Light Hunter scope. This is a new model by Vortex, just released this spring. I got mine in a 3.5 by 15 by 42. So, comes from Vortex with lots of peanuts, as you'd expect. Keep the scope safe. The Vortex box is inside. There it is, Razor HD LX. Razor HD being the top of the Vortex line, and not LX, I'm sorry, LH stands for a light hunter, I believe. Now, okay, why Vortex? Well, number one, they make great optics, and number two, Vortex does something that I'm especially pleased with, and that is they sponsor Steven Rinella's Meat Eater series. Now, to my mind, Steve Rinella is one of the best voices for hunting in America today. He preaches ethical hunting, he preaches eating, and he doesn't just preach it, he lives it. He is it. He's an authentic guy, and he puts a good face forward for hunting. So thank you, Vortex, for supporting Steven Rinella and the Meat Eater series. All right, let's open the box and see what's inside. Small user's manual, optical cloth, a shade extension for the objective lens. We'll put that on in a second, have a look at it. The scope itself and a manual for the reticle. Now, I ordered the HSR-4 reticle. It's an MOA reticle. What that means is that the gradients inside that you can see on the reticle, and I'm going to put a camera down the scope later so that you can see that, give you indications in minutes of angle. Okay, the scope comes with a scope cover. I'll probably replace this with one of Vortex's new flip-up scope mounts. They're easier to handle in the field. It's very lightweight. We're going to weigh it in just a second. The turrets for the vertical adjustment. And the horizontal adjustment have caps to protect them. And this has a side focus. What the side focus does is to eliminate parallax. Parallax occurs when you're looking into the scope and your eye is any less than directly in the center of the scope. If you move your eye, the crosshairs may appear to move on the target. The side focus allows you to get rid of that. So if your eye isn't directly centered on the scope, the crosshairs will still stay on the center of the target. All right, the weigh-in. I've got a kitchen scale. It's very accurate. Let's zero it. And we have 1 pound, 0.7 ounces. You probably can't see that, but that's what it says. 1 pound, 0.7 ounces. So this scope is going to add a total of 1 pound to my rifle. And I get all that with a 42 millimeter objective lens, a 3.5 to 15 zoom. Just a great scope. All right, I told you how that I'd show you how the shade mounted. This might be if you're shooting and you've got a setting sun off on the horizon. Maybe it's shining right into your scope, creating a little bit of glare. Put this on, and notice if we tilt the scope just a little bit, now you can no longer see objective glass. Well, it does the same thing for bright light at a distance. All right, let's get this scope mounted on my new Kimber mount Ascent, and then we'll weigh the whole package and find out what I'm going to be toting up the hill. Okay, let's mount the Vortex scope to this beautiful rifle. First step is place the scope in the rings. Oh, and you might have noticed I had to turn this ring mount around. When the ring mount was facing the other way, there was no room to move the scope back and forth. So when you do put the ring mounts on, put them in this configuration, not the one I did in the previous video. Okay, place the scope in the ring mounts, and Vortex recommended procedure for positioning the scope is to place the magnification in a middle position, which we'll just choose 6x. We're not worried about level just yet. What we're checking for is the correct position forward and aft, so that when you sight the gun, you have a full field of view, but that the scope is far enough away that you don't hit yourself in the eyeball with the scope and cause injury. So this actually looks like a pretty good distance from even all the way back here to right up here, and my distance from the scope is as far as it can get. So for me, the scope as far forward in the mounts as possible is the right position. Okay, now that we know that, let's take the scope off. And I've got a simple level from a carpenter's square. And let's put that on the mounts, because now what we want to do is get the scope square to the mounts. So move the rifle until the bubble is centered. Make sure it's firmly down in the holder. Yeah, that's centered very nicely. All right, set that aside. Pick up the scope and place it. For me, it was in a far forward position. For you, it might be somewhere else. Place it in whatever forward, backward position you needed it in. And I took off the cap for the top turret so that I could get to the levelmost part. Put the carpenter's level back in there, and then turn the scope until the scope is level. Very good. That looks perfect. All right, I'm going to leave the level there. Take the rings. The screws are still sitting in them. Put them in place. Let's tighten them down. Check the level again before final tightening. Okay, it looks like when we bring the rings down, it does shift the scope just a little bit. Okay. Vortex recommends 15 foot-pounds of pressure maximum on these screws. And so there are 4 of them. I'm not going to apply too much of my hand force, just enough there, so they feel snug. And that should do it. All right, let's replace the turret. Pick up the gun. Nice and level. Boy, that looks great. All right, one final test of this whole setup. And that is, what exactly are we going to be toting up the hill? We have a rifle that weighs 5 pounds 5 ounces, a scope that weighs just a half an ounce over a pound, and 4 rounds of ammunition. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, loaded, safety on, and I have to say the Kimber was a little bit tricky to load. You have to be very careful to position the rounds and make sure that they're snapped in properly. All right, we have a precision food scale here. You probably can't read the display. It's zeroed. We've got the Mountain Ascent, the Vortex scope, and 4 rounds of ammunition. 6 pounds 8 ounces. So there you have it. Now that is a lightweight mountain rifle. In 280 Ackley improved. Looking at the ballistics on the 280 from Nosler in this 160 grain Partition bullet, the zeroed at 200 yards, which is what I intend to zero it at. It will be 1.5 inches high at 100 yards, 6.9 inches low at 300 yards, and 19 inches at 400 yards. That's not bad. And at 400 yards, it'll have 1,727 pounds of foot energy and be traveling at 2,205 feet per second. So the next step, now that the rifle's all set up, is to take it to the range, get the scope zeroed in, test both the felt recoil and the decibels of noise with and without the muzzle brake. So thanks again to Backcountry Hunters and Anglers for making such a great incentive available for people who take a lifetime membership. To my friends at Vortex who got me an early production model of this scope. There aren't many of these in the country right now, and it's pretty exciting to be holding a 1 pound scope with this much power and quality in it. So let's go hunt some elk in Montana.